Hey, what's going on, guys? Sean here, living the corporate pilot life. I am in my office right now here in Palm Beach. It is 4:29 in the morning, and yeah, it's early. It's still dark outside. I'm still half asleep, but I'm getting there. I need a little caffeine to get me going, but we're gonna do all right. It is still coronavirus time right now, so obviously I'm wearing a mask. We got these logo Alerion branded ones here, and we think they're pretty cool. Something a little different. Do a little advertising while we're having to keep the face coverings going on. But I'm here by myself, so I'm going to take it off just for you guys. But here in a little while, I'll put it back on to get out of here. So on my way in, I was thinking about something that we haven't really talked about too much before, and that is duty and rest requirements. Something that I'm definitely looking at today for myself, but I also look at it for all of our pilots on a very regular basis. As Director of Operations, I have to monitor this stuff for all of my pilots. I use a computer program to really keep track of this stuff on a regular basis, but at the end of the month, I still have to audit all the records to make sure everything is correct and legal. But to give you guys a rundown on what we look at for legal requirements on the 135 side, now the airlines are completely different. They have their own set of rules. That's 121. I think they're pretty similar, but don't quote me on anything 121 because I don't deal with that. I deal with the 135 charter side. For 135, we're allowed to fly up to 14 hours of duty time in a day. Within that 14 hours can be 10 hours of flight time, but before you can start any of that, you have to get 10 hours of rest. So like I said, it's 4:30 in the morning right now. I've been in rest for at least 10 hours. It's been far more than that right now, but I have to have been notified 10 hours prior to going on duty so that I can go into rest for at least 10 hours. After that, I can go on duty for up to 14 hours, and like I said, within that 14 hours, I can have up to 10 hours of flight time. These are pretty hard requirements. There are some gray areas worked in there that you can kind of work through, but we're not going to get into that stuff. But for the most part, these are the requirements that we have to deal with on a regular basis. So like I said, I've got 14 hours from right now, so 6:30 tonight, I've got to be hard stopped, done for the day, in dinner, having some food, and getting ready for bed. And you bet I will be getting ready for bed at around 6:30 tonight because it's gonna be a long day probably. So anyway, it's something a little bit different that you guys haven't heard a little bit about. There are a lot of ways that we can extend that. I shouldn't say a lot of ways. There are a few ways that we can extend that. Let's say we're going to Europe today or something like that. We're not going to Europe today. I wish I was, but if I were, for instance, we could potentially add a third crew member into the airplane to get a little bit more flight time and duty time worked into that. But when you add a third crew member, there are other requirements, rest areas in the airplane that have to be designated for the third crew member and things like that. So it gets a little bit tricky. Also, if we have to extend, or not extend our day, but if we have a longer trip, for instance, let's say we're going to Thailand, we may have to stop somewhere and just spend the night somewhere. That's been done before. It's something that the passengers are aware of. So a lot of times passengers build their flight or build their trip around stopping somewhere. Maybe they'll say, you know what, I'm going to spend a day in Paris, and then we'll continue on to wherever, Thailand or something like that. And that's pretty normal. We did that a little while back when we went to Bora Bora. We actually went to Hawaii first, spent several days in Hawaii, and then we went on to Bora Bora, spent several days there, and then on the way back, same thing. We stopped in Hawaii again, spent a few more days, and then came all the way back to Florida. So it's something that passengers typically are aware of. If you get into the larger cabin airplanes, the G5s and G650s and things like that, they mostly have a designated crew rest area so that you can add that third crew member and extend those flight and duty limitations. If I remember correctly, you can get up to 12 hours of flight time and 18 hours of duty by adding a third crew member, as long as you do it legally. Not something we typically do around here at Alerion. It's not something we really want to mess with because of those other sticky situations with crew rest areas in the airplane and things like that. But it's something that we can play with if we get one of those amazing long trips or something along those lines. So, like I said, something a little different on the operations side that we haven't got into before. Hopefully you guys like learning about the operations side. I certainly enjoy it. It's definitely part of my job. But give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want some more of this stuff. And leave me some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. And we'll see you guys on the next Tech Tuesday video. Keep living the corporate pilot life.